Well, hello everyone. This is our first couples podcast. It's called Relationship Gold Matters, and I'm so happy to bring you this podcast. It's my husband and I. There's so many couples out there. There's so many, whether you're married, whether you're in a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, it doesn't really matter. This is for you. We just want to break the ice and talk about many different topics we believe couples are struggling, going through at the moment.
Or even just thinking about.
So we're not going to be taking this, this is not like so serious to the point whereby we're going to have jokes, we're going to share our views, we're going to have debates, we're going to share our opinions. I may not agree with everything my husband says, vice versa. He may not agree with everything I say. That's the whole point, okay? Married life issues, relationship gold matters. So I'm going to break the ice really today. One of the topics I wanted to speak about is the issue of trust. And with the issue of trust, I did something over the weekend that I thought was a laughable issue. For me, it was not a big deal because my husband and I decided we were going to watch a particular movie together on Netflix. It was going to be our Saturday movie night, and I went on and I watched that movie by myself without my husband while he was away. And he came home and caught me red-handed watching that same movie.
Yes, indeed.
And when I said, for him, it's like, well, baby, we said we were watching this together while you're watching it. And I was like, well, you normally drop asleep when we're watching a movie. So that was my reasoning.
Not all the time, but sometimes I do.
Well, yeah, you do. But I thought it was funny. For me, it was not a big deal. So what? I watched the movie. But again, he took offense to that because he thought it was our little couples time. It's a time for us to spend one-on-one, time together away from the kids, just our little connection. And I went to mess it all up. So I'm going to just break the ice with that one. Baby, what did you think really happened?
Well, looking at it, it's often in relationships, and this is the reason why that example is significant. It's not because a movie was watched by one person and the other person didn't get to see it, or both of you could sit down yet again and watch the movie. The issue was not the fact that this was done and we could look at it again together. What the issue was, it was a breach of contract. It was a breach of trust. It was a deception.
Oh, wow.
Now, I'm not saying that it's, my wife should serve jail time for this. I'm just saying that we had an agreement in principle, a verbal agreement, and then my wife decided at one point, listen, I'm finished doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm going to just go straight ahead and just sit there, just lie there, just relax and just begin to get into my zone.
That's exactly how I was feeling.
Yeah, and nothing's wrong with that. Absolutely nothing is wrong with that. But the problem with that, from where I was coming from, and we spoke about it, and we came to an understanding. The problem was when you and your significant other, you and your spouse, girlfriend, when you and your significant other come to an agreement, when you make an arrangement to act on something united as one together, you don't know what that means to that person, and that other person don't know what it means to you. So you see, the deception, the breach of trust, the betrayal might seem like, well, it's just a simple act. We could watch it over. It's always on Netflix. We could look at it again. But the other party might take it a lot deeper. In addition to that, it is important to understand that when there are little issues, little white lies or so, or little acts of deception, like little acts of, it would seem I'm using some very, very aggressive term like deception. And I'm doing this for the mere purposes of referencing, to represent how one person would look at it as it's no big deal, like my wife looked at it. But the other party would come in and they'll be like, right. On my drive home, I was so excited about popcorn, about refreshments, and I was really getting excited about us sitting down and doing this together.
I never thought about it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about the movie, because you could watch any movie. It wasn't about the act. It wasn't about the plan that you had. It was about the fact that we are setting aside a specific time to have a bit of relationship bonding. We're going to spend one-to-one time. Half of the movies that couples watch together, they might remember it, they might not remember it. But it is about the two people deciding to carve out of their 24 hours a day, out of their 7 days every week, they're going to carve out. That is why things like date nights are significant. Not because the food is not the point. The dressing up and going out is not the point.
True that.
The having that 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours is not the point.
I love date night, by the way.
Exactly. I love date night as well. I never knew anything about that. The point is that it is significant for two people to maintain, while they maintain their individuality, they also show, and they have the public demonstration, a public act of showing that, listen, you are significant enough to me that we could still make a contract and I would honor that contract like when we were dating. I say we are going to meet at this place to watch a movie, and we do that. We say we're going to meet and have dinner together while we are beginning to court, while we are beginning to get to know each other. And what that means, me not being late, you not being late, we are beginning to set the foundations for the kind of relationship we are going to have. So you begin to see elements of the person. You begin to see elements of that person that you are forming this relationship with. You begin to see elements of your life partner coming through. And you begin to feel respected. Respected, because when they say they'll be there at 2 o'clock, they don't come at 4. And when you say you'll be there at 2, you don't come at 4. They begin to understand that this person respects me. You see? And that is the foundation upon which relationships are built, and they grow and they become stronger, and they become relationships that people can become comfortable in, and also begin to see themselves. See, the relationship growing is one thing, but also as an individual, you still need to have that personal growth and appreciate and envelope the growth and the process of you becoming who you really can become. And that's what love is. When we say we're going to do something and you do something different, I might not take it personal, but the next time it happens, I feel a little bit bad about it. I feel a little bit worse about it. And then there's a third time and a fourth time. And it becomes like one of those situations where you begin to now consider that
lose trust.
Yeah, you begin to feel like I'm being disrespected more and more. I didn't see it that way the first time, but you begin to feel more and more like you're being disrespected. It might not be the intention of the other party, but you begin to feel that way.
Okay, so I get you.
Yeah.
And on air live, I apologize for actually watching that movie behind your back, because now that you've actually explained that, I now understand that, there was many factors there that I never considered. I was doing it because, I was bored. I could have actually watched another movie on Netflix, So we have to bear that in mind, that I think it's, how the other person perceives things, that I may look at it like it's not a big deal, but you, on the other hand, for you made plans and you saw it differently, and you saw it as a bonding time, and you saw it as popcorn and having a drink or a glass of wine and just having a special occasion, and basically I blew it. So I think a lot of couples sometimes, especially I think maybe women, we do things sometimes without thinking. Our emotions tend to get in the way of things, and again, like you said, it's an issue of trust. And that's a small thing, because at the end of the day,
really.
That's not a big thing. That's not a problem to cause you to have arguments and slamming of doors and walking out and sleeping on the couch and whatever it is. But, it's just little things like that can lead to something else. For instance, like you said, if there's a third time or a fourth time, it registers in the back of your mind. Mm-hmm. You keep doing this thing to me, so now you're thinking on the sly, can I really trust you? Yeah, I get you. Another thing we wanted to brace on, just talk about in general. There's this is our first podcast, as we mentioned, and we want to basically touch on a lot of things that's relatable to couples right now. And one of the things this week I was reading about, or even watching it's gone viral. I'm sure anybody who's watching social media is the fact that there was this issue with Will Smith and his wife Jada in regards to, Jada having an affair with this R&B artist called August. And I just wanted my husband and I to have a little talk about that, because at the end of the day, this is something that happens in a lot of couples when they say they take a break. So in Jada's case, she was saying that, me and Will were no longer together. We decided that we had gone our separate ways. From Will's point of view, there was no coming back together. That was it. They were married, but they couldn't see a way that they could actually come back together. So basically it was done and dusted, but we are still legally married on paper, maybe for the sake of the kids or for the sake of our businesses. So, but then she went ahead and had a relationship with a 20-year-old, friend of her son. Now, this is a grown woman in her 40s, who was having difficulties with health, mental health, drug addiction. And she was saying, well, it all started because I was, I felt like I was doing good because I was healing this boy, and one thing led to another, and now, it became like a full-blown relationship. Now, my thing on this matter is, we have to be very careful with the mental health of people. Like we talk about mental health matters. So for me, it's more or less like, fair enough, you guys were not together. A lot of people have done so. We're not together. You date someone, I date someone. But do you think it was actually fair, baby? Like what really happened to this guy, August? Because coming from a mental health point of view, I believe she left him worse off than where he was. So if you came to heal someone who had, all these health issues, mental health issues, depression, anxiety, coming up, trying to sort of get away from certain drug addiction. And then you were trying to be like a role model, a mentor, and you found yourself in a relationship with this person. And then you just left them dry and basically went back to your husband. And now the whole world is talking about it. For me, it's a little bit unfair because you've actually left that person more broken. And I think she ought to know better, because it's like having a relationship with her son. That boy was only 20 years old. Jada is a grown-ass woman. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I didn't really follow this story prior to you breaking this to me. So what I gathered from this was, and I don't really agree that Jada did anything majorly wrong. Relationships, marriages, everything don't flow smooth. Things don't work out like you plan it. And that's not just for marriages. That's just life. Basic foundation, fundamental life. Things don't work out like how you plan it. These two people, Will Smith and Jada, they were together. The relationship almost came to an end. I mean, the relationship, as far as they were aware, came to an end. And at some point, a 360, both of them made a 360 and decided, you know what, now we're going to be together. During the time that they were separate, they were not together, they'd agreed that this was the end. The only thing that never happened was a legal divorce. During that time, Jada was searching. Will was doing whatever he was doing. Jada was doing whatever she was doing. She met this young man. This young man was 20 years old. Yes, he was like half her age or whatever it is. The reality is, it was a consenting adult. I'm not saying what happened was correct. But Jada, as she made very clear, was not in what we tend to refer to as her right state of mind.
Oh, by the
she
way,
was broken.
She called this, she was involved in an entanglement.
Yes.
I think this is a new word for having an affair now. She was now involved in, she was in an entanglement.
But we're going to actually,
what does that even mean?
But I think we should actually look at a later podcast. We should look at, terms like entanglement, affair, I had a thing. But we look at that later. Yeah. But the reality of it is, Jada did what was right for her at that time, and how she was feeling. She was being honest and sincere with herself. I'm not saying she did anything right or anything wrong as far as I was aware. Jada did what Jada did at that time. And August, as an adult, he have to try to put himself back together. Unfortunately, he ended up with the short end of the stick. And that's really unfortunate. Really unfortunate.
Well, there you have it. So now you've heard both sides. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this podcast from my husband and I.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be coming out with more issues to talk about. Feel free to send us stuff to talk about. And hope to speak to you guys again. I think we're gonna do this once a week or twice a week.
We'll see. Probably once a week.
Once a week or
but
twice
lots of
a
love
week.
from both of
Lots
us.
of love. Bye.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you.